You know, a few weeks ago, I was having tea with an old friend, someone I've known for over 20 years. We were laughing and telling stories, as we always did. But then she stopped. There was a few seconds of silence, and she repeated the exact same story she'd told less than 3 minutes earlier. I chuckled to keep the mood light, but inside, I felt something was wrong. And then other things started to emerge. She couldn't remember what day it was. She wasn't sure if she'd had breakfast. And sometimes her eyes would look strangely distant. I'm not telling you this to scare you. I'm telling you because this is where we need to start listening. More than 55 million people worldwide are living with dementia, and many of them don't know it until it's too late. Dementia doesn't strike like a bolt from the blue. It comes like a quiet wind, small, tiny changes until your memory, your emotions, and your very self slowly slip away. In this video, I'll walk you through 10 early signs, silent but crucial signals that can signal the path to dementia. They're not just about forgetting a name or taking a wrong turn. They can start with the way you hold a glass, the first steps of the day, or even the way you respond to joy. Each section I share today has real-life examples, supporting science, and things you can do right at home to protect your brain and your life, and the lives of those you love. And before we get started, I have a question for you. If you had to choose just one thing to keep as you age, what would you choose? Memory, freedom of movement, or emotions and joy of living? Leave a comment. I read every word with respect, because this is not just a video, it's a journey we're on together. Imagine, one morning, you get out of bed as usual, but today, something is different. You feel you're walking a little slower. Your steps are smaller. There's a wobble that you can't quite name. I guess I walked too much yesterday. You think, and you continue your day. But then, it happens again the next day, and the day after that, and you start to realize you don't walk like you used to. Not as fast, not as steady. It's like someone has quietly slowed down your pace a notch. Many people say it's just getting old. And yes, age changes us. But what many people don't know is that small changes in walking, like dragging your feet, leaning forward, or having a slight imbalance, can be early signs of dementia, especially in the frontal lobe and cerebellum, which control movement and coordination. A 2020 study of more than 17,000 older adults published in the journal Neurology found that people with slower walking speeds and poorer balance were more likely to develop dementia over the next 7 years. David, 72, had been a daily walker with his wife for nearly 30 years. She was the first to notice. He wasn't walking with me anymore. He was slowing down, but he wasn't tired. She thought he was just taking it easy. But a few months later, he couldn't remember the way home after a walk alone. The change didn't start with his memory. It started with his steps. If you notice yourself or a loved one walking differently, don't dismiss it. Ask, is this temporary fatigue? Or is it a sign that needs attention? Sometimes, your feet will tell you things that your brain is trying to hide. Try this little test every week. Walk 10 steps around the house. Are your speed, balance, and confidence still intact? And if changes in your stride were the first warning, the next sign is even more subtle. It's not in your feet. It's in how you perceive the space around you. Here's why spilling water can be more serious than you think. Have you ever poured water into a glass and it spilled all over the table without realizing it? Or walked down the stairs and suddenly felt unsteady, as if the step was no longer in the right place? At first, you think, maybe I'm in a hurry, or maybe my eyes are getting worse. But your eye exam shows your vision is fine. Your glasses are correct. So what's really going on? The truth is, the problem may not be your eyes. It's how your brain processes what you see. As your brain begins to decline, especially in the spatial areas like the parietal lobe, you may still see things clearly, but you may not be able to pinpoint distances, depths, or locations. You may start to notice things like hitting a door even though it's wide open, struggling to get your spoon into your mouth when eating, confused about having to reverse, even though you used to do it every day, feeling self-conscious when entering crowded or moving spaces. Linda, 67, used to drive herself to the grocery store every weekend. One day, she turned into a parking lot the wrong way, not because she couldn't see, but because she wasn't sure how far the cars were. A few days later, she spilled coffee when pouring into a cup 3 times in a row. Her vision was fine when she was examined, but a spatial awareness test showed a marked decline. That's when the family knew it wasn't just age. If you or a loved one start bumping into things frequently, spilling water, or feeling awkward when going downstairs, remember, sometimes the eyes can see clearly, but the brain doesn't understand it as well as before. Try this little test. Close your eyes and walk around a familiar room. If you feel disoriented, or open your eyes and aren't where you thought you were, it may be time for a deeper check. In addition to spatial awareness, the ability to smell is often affected early in Alzheimer's. One study found people who can't identify 10 common smells like coffee, peppermint, orange, are 5 times more likely to develop dementia in the next 5 years. So if you find that you can no longer smell your favorite meal, think of it as a subtle signal from your brain. And if your brain starts to misread the outside world, what happens when your inner strength, your muscles and control of your limbs also starts to change? Let's continue. The next section will show you why that hard-to-open jar lid can reveal things that many people don't want to admit. Have you ever picked up a familiar jam jar and found that you had to strain to unscrew it? Or picked up a glass of water and your hand started to shake slightly, even though you didn't feel tired? It starts very slightly, a little slow, a little weak. But don't be so quick to dismiss it as aging muscles, because your hands, sometimes, are the earliest messengers of changes in your brain. We often think of dementia as just a problem with memory or speech, but the brain and muscles are actually closely connected through the nervous system. As the brain begins to fail, signals to muscle groups, especially the hands, slow down or weaken. A large 2019 study of more than 160,000 older adults published in the BMJ found that for every 5 kilograms decrease in grip strength, the risk of dementia increases by 16%. That means 70-year-old Raymond is an avid gardener. Every week, he mows the lawn, tends plants, and opens bottles of fertilizer with his bare hands. But recently, he has had to ask his wife to help him open jars. He has started avoiding doing things that require strength. No pain. It's just that his hands aren't what they used to be. The family thought he was just getting weaker with age, but when they checked him, they found slight changes in his reflexes and short-term memory, early signs of cognitive decline. Changes in hand strength, grip, steadiness can be an early indicator of brain health. Mr. Raymond, 70, is an avid gardener. Every week he mows the lawn, tends plants, and opens bottles of fertilizer with his bare hands. But recently, he has had to ask his wife to help him open jars. He has started avoiding doing things that require hand strength. No pain. Just, his hands are not what they used to be. The family thought he was just getting weaker with age, but when they checked him, they found slight changes in his reflexes and short-term memory, early signs of cognitive decline. Hand weakness is not just due to muscle. It's because the brain is no longer sending signals effectively to the small motor muscles. This is a result of gradual deterioration in the basal ganglia and cerebellum, areas involved in fine motor coordination. Take 30 seconds every day to test your hands. Can you squeeze a handle for 5 seconds? Does your hand shake when you hold a glass full of water? Can you unscrew a bottle cap without help? This is not a test of strength. It is a listening to the soft voice inside your nervous system. And if you feel something is off, don't ignore it. And if during the day your hands start to whisper that something is changing, at night, your body will say it louder. You may not remember it, but the person lying next to you will hear it. Next, we will explore why sleep, especially vivid dreams, is one of the earliest warnings your brain sends you. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night? Your heart is racing, you're sweating, and you're not sure what you were dreaming about. Or you hear someone say, "Last night you were talking to yourself. You kicked me several times. I screamed in my dream, like someone was chasing me." Dreams become so vivid that you replay them in your sleep. It may sound strange, but this isn't just a bad dream. It could be a silent warning from your brain. When we sleep, there's a stage called REM rapid eye movement, where dreams occur. Normally, the brain disables the body, so you don't act out your dreams. But when the part of the brain that controls movement is impaired, as in early neurological disorders, the body is no longer locked down. The result? You may talk, kick, thrash, or even stand up while you sleep. This is called REM sleep behavior disorder (RBD), and it has been shown to be one of the earliest signs of some forms of dementia, particularly Lewy body dementia and Parkinson's. Jack, 68, is a gentle, calm person, but one night, his wife woke up startled when she saw him hitting someone in his sleep. He didn't remember anything, but this happens several times a week, along with him feeling tired all day. 2 years later, he was diagnosed with early-stage Lewy body dementia. Those dreams, it turns out, came before his memory started to fade. A study published in JAMA Neurology said, nearly 80% of people with REM sleep behavior disorder will develop a neurological disease within 10 years, especially diseases that affect memory and movement. If you or a loved one starts talking, screaming, or moving a lot in your sleep, frequently wakes up in the middle of the night, feels sleepy during the day despite getting enough sleep, don't just think of it as old age insomnia. Maybe your brain is crying out for help. You can keep a sleep diary for a week. Just a few lines every morning, you'll be surprised at what you can find early. And if the brain sends out unconscious signals at night, then during the day, there's another signal that's even quieter. Not screaming, not forgetting names, but when you start to feel less happy, less interested in doing the things you used to love. In the next section, we'll talk about apathy, a seemingly harmless feeling, but one of the brain's most powerful alarm bells. Have you ever seen a loved one who used to be excited about planting flowers every morning, always bustling about preparing dinner for the whole family, suddenly just sitting quietly looking out the window one day, not sad, not crying, just no longer passionate about anything? You ask, "Are you okay?" And she just smiles, "Riley, it's okay, I'm just not interested anymore." At first, you think it's depression, but if there's no obvious sadness, no anxiety, no hopelessness, then it could be apathy, emotional apathy. And this is not a temporary feeling. It can be an early sign of dementia. Apathy occurs when the brain circuits that control motivation and emotion gradually weaken, especially in the frontal lobe and limbic system. It causes the person to lose interest, lose motivation, not because they're sad, but because the brain can no longer turn on emotions like before. You'll see, the person stops calling friends. They skip favorite activities for no reason. Even when sitting down to eat, they no longer have the same expression or comments as before. Susan, 74, used to be the life of every family gathering, always telling stories, always bringing special baked goods. But on her most recent birthday, she just sat there. No smiles, no stories, no bites of cake. Her daughter thought her mother was sad about something, but when she got to know her better, the doctor said she's not sad. She's losing her ability to feel joy. And that could be the first sign of Alzheimer's, according to a study published in Neurology 2020. Apathy is a strong early predictor of Alzheimer's, and unlike depression, people don't feel sad, they just don't feel anything. If you find yourself or a loved one becoming indifferent to things they used to love, no longer taking the initiative to communicate, emotional responses becoming dull, remember, it's not laziness, it's not sadness, it could be the faint voice of a brain in need of help. Don't hesitate to ask, what used to make you happy that no longer makes you happy? Just that one question, it could be a small bridge to their inner world that is slowly closing. And when emotions start to fade, the verbal connection also fades. You want to talk, but they fumble for words. A simple sentence becomes a long journey. In the next section, we will explore another notable sign. When language, our most precious tool, begins to betray us. You know that feeling when you are telling a story with great enthusiasm, but suddenly a familiar word disappears. It is right on the tip of your tongue. You are sure you know it, but the more you try to remember it, the more it escapes you. It happens to all of us. It is a natural part of aging. But if it happens several times a day, if you start substituting words for other words that don't make sense, or repeating the same sentence over and over again in the same conversation, it could be something else. It's not just getting old. It's an early sign of a language disorder, a form of dementia called aphasia. Language is a very sophisticated brain function. It requires the coordination of memory, understanding, and the ability to speak. When the Broca's and Wernicke's areas, two areas in the left hemisphere of the brain, start to fail, You may stop mid-sentence because you can't find the right word. Call one thing by another's name. Say the same phrase over and over again as if your brain is on ice. Or even use unrelated words without realizing it. Carl, 73, used to be a history teacher and is very good at expressing himself. But lately, he's been saying things like, "Get me that, the round one for soup," while he was about to say spoon, when his family noticed that he often stopped in the middle of sentences, mispronounced his niece's name, and fell silent several times because he couldn't find the right words. They thought he was just tired. But when he went to the doctor, he was diagnosed with primary progressive aphasia, a form of dementia that begins with language, not memory. According to the Mayo Clinic, language problems can appear years before dementia is clearly diagnosed, and are often mistaken for normal aging. If you find yourself, or a loved one, frequently fumbling for words, pausing in the middle of sentences, mistakenly calling people or things by name, or being reluctant to communicate for fear of saying the wrong thing, take notes and don't hesitate to talk to your doctor. Early detection can help you retain your ability to communicate longer and preserve important connections with family and friends. A simple way to help is to use pictures, flashcards, or to write a short diary every day to keep your brain working with words. And when language starts to slip, memory, especially short-term memory, can easily drift away too. You put down your wallet and forget it. You tell a story and then tell it exactly the same 10 minutes later. Next, we'll talk about something everyone fears but often ignores: short-term memory loss, and how to tell the difference between old forgetfulness and forgetfulness due to dementia. We've all forgotten. Forgetting your keys in your coat pocket, forgetting the name of an old movie, or walking into a room and having trouble remembering what you were going to do. These things happen to everyone and are mostly normal. But if you not only forget, but can't recall even when prompted, or don't even realize you've forgotten, then that could be something else. A gentle reminder from your brain: I'm in trouble. Short-term memory is where your brain stores information that just happened, like what you just ate, who called, or whether you turned off the stove. When the hippocampus, the center for memory processing, starts to fail, you don't just forget, you lose the ability to retain new information. That's why you ask the same question over and over. Forget that a relative just visited, or can't remember what you said 5 minutes ago. Henry, 76, used to be very organized, but recently he started forgetting doctor's appointments, repeating the same story multiple times in a single evening. And when his daughter reminded him, "You just told me," he shook his head in surprise. "Really? Dad doesn't remember." It's not that he doesn't care. It's that his short-term memory has started to fade without warning. According to the Alzheimer's Association, short-term memory loss is one of the first and most common signs of Alzheimer's. It's different from age-related forgetfulness because information isn't stored in the brain in the first place, so it can't be retrieved later. You can test yourself or observe your loved ones for signs like not remembering what you had for breakfast this morning, forgetting conversations that just happened, repeating the same question over and over again even though it's already been answered. If it happens frequently, write down those forgettings, not to blame, but to better understand and intervene earlier. And if you're a loved one, be patient. Sometimes you've answered the question 5 times, but for them, it's the first time they've heard it. And if the memory starts to drift away, then comes the feeling that you don't know where you are or what day it is. You wake up disoriented. You're lost in the same neighborhood you've lived in for 30 years. In the next section, we'll explore a symptom that confuses many people and is also very dangerous: disorientation of time and space. You wake up one morning, look out the window. The light is dim, the sky is overcast, and you suddenly hesitate. What day is it? Is it morning or afternoon? What month is it? It can happen to anyone after a long sleep. But then you look at the clock, look at the calendar, and you know it. For someone who is starting to have disorientation, that question has no clear answer. Even if they look at the clock 3 times, the world around them becomes strange. Time and space, 2 things that seem to be the foundation, begin to shake in the brain. Disorientation is one of the classic signs of dementia. when the hippocampus and temporal lobe, the navigation centers for time and space, are impaired. The person begins to not know what day it is, not remember why they are in a certain place, or feel confused in their own home. Evelyn, 79, has lived in the same house for nearly 40 years. One day, she called her son and asked, "Honey, what's wrong with me?" Where, her son thought she was joking, but she meant it. She stood in the middle of her own living room, with a look of confusion and fear in her eyes. Then she started forgetting appointments, wearing sweaters in the middle of July, and talking about dead people as if they were still alive. A meta-analysis in The Lancet 2021 found that more than 60% of people with some form of dementia intellectually disoriented in time and space within the first 3 years. And this is not only confusing, it can be potentially dangerous, getting lost, falling, or losing control of behavior in unfamiliar environments. If you or a loved one often get the time wrong, don't know where you are or what you're doing, feel lost in familiar spaces, think of it as a reminder from your brain. Simple ways to help: hang a large, clear calendar in the house. Use a digital clock with a large, clear date and time. Put a label or picture on the door to help you orient yourself. These little things can keep you feeling safe and in control longer than you think. And when the feeling of being lost begins to overwhelm you, you will come to the point where you or your loved one will ask the same question over and over again. A few minutes later, a few more times, not because they didn't hear you, but because their brain never stored the answer in the first place. In the next section, we will delve into a familiar sign, but also one of the most obvious early signs: repetition. And the real reason behind the question, "What time is it?" being asked 10 times in an hour. "What time is it?" You smile and gently reply, "It's 11 a.m., Mom." Less than 5 minutes later, "What time is it?" You replied, still calm, still gentle. But then the question comes back, over and over again, with the same genuine surprise in the questioner's eyes, as if it's the first time they've said it. At first, you may find it confusing, then it's exhausting, and then maybe it's heartbreaking. But this repetition isn't intentional. It's not because you didn't listen. It's because your brain didn't record the information in the first place. Short-term memory works like a whiteboard. Every experience, every word is written on it. But when the hippocampus is damaged by dementia, that whiteboard can't hold the words for long. As a result, the answer you just gave doesn't have time to sink into your brain. The person doesn't remember asking and doesn't remember you answering, and so the loop begins. George, 75, keeps asking his grandson, "Are you going to school tomorrow?" even though the boy has answered, even though he's nodded. A moment later, the same question will come up again, and then again, and each time, he asked with genuine interest, as if it was something new. At first, his grandson was upset, but when he understood that he was no longer able to retain new information, the boy began writing the answers down on paper, putting it in front of him every morning, and they both smiled. According to the Journal of Geriatric Psychiatry and Neurology, repetitive questioning is one of the earliest behavioral signs of dementia, and is often the first thing loved ones notice. If you live with someone who shows this sign, remember that they are not repeating themselves on purpose. Every time they ask, they really don't know. Simple ways to help: write important information down on a piece of paper or a large whiteboard. Use a gentle, empathetic tone rather than correcting. Create visual anchors, like a digital clock with reminders, a color calendar, illustrations. And most importantly, patience is not endurance, it is the highest form of love. But sometimes, memories don't just repeat themselves. They start to create things that aren't real. You hear someone say they see someone standing in the corner of a room, even though you know the room is empty. Or they smell smoke, when nothing is burning. In the next section, the final section, we'll touch on the sign that worries most people: hallucinations, and when reality begins to warp in the mind. If you've come this far with me, you're probably carrying a quiet anxiety, worrying about yourself, worrying about a loved one, worrying that the signs you see, however small, could be the beginning of something bigger. And I get it. The fear of losing your memory is unlike any other. It takes away not just your memories, but your identity, your connection, and sometimes your hope. But I want you to know this. There is still hope. Not a vague hope, but a hope based on science, action, and love. For many years, people thought that dementia was irreversible. That once it started, all you could do was wait. But today, scientists are changing that story. Two new drugs, lecanemab and donanemab, are in clinical trials and have shown promising results. According to a study published in the New England Journal of Medicine 2023, lecanemab slowed cognitive decline by 27% in people with early-stage Alzheimer's. These drugs don't just alleviate symptoms, they target the root cause, removing the amyloid plaques that damage brain cells. There are also immunotherapy, deep brain stimulation, and even gene therapy is in development. We don't have a magic bullet yet, but we're getting closer than ever. Elaine, 66, was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's 1 year ago. Instead of panicking, she chose to change. Walk for 30 minutes every day. Eat the Mind diet rich in green vegetables, berries, fish and olive oil. Practice Spanish with an app every morning. A year later, tests show that her cognitive abilities are much more stable than expected. Not because of a miracle, but because she acted early and persistently. The takeaway: what you can do today. You don't have to wait for a new drug. You can start protecting your brain today with small but valuable actions. Exercise regularly. Just 30 minutes of walking a day increases blood circulation to the brain. Eat healthily, follow the Mind or Mediterranean diet. Get enough and deep sleep. Sleep is when the brain eliminates neurotoxins. Learn something new, from reading to playing an instrument to learning a new skill. Stay socially connected. Loneliness is one of the factors that increases the risk of dementia. And if you've noticed any of the signs, don't wait. Early detection isn't just about knowing, it's about fighting. Science is moving forward. You can too. Every action you take today, no matter how small, could be the reason you or someone you love is still alive years from now.